Remember the things that you've been taught. So the things that the critical thinking skills, um, the battle IQ, the battle skills that you developed from Storm 4, a lot of those things still carry over. But we've forgotten a lot of those things because Storm Connections has spoiled us in a lot of different areas. So, for example, we have chakra is so much more accessible now. It charges faster, and at one point, spark dashes cost the same as a regular dashes. And of course, speed peel just made you super fast. A lot of people were just spark dashing a lot, and you could just tell even in a lot of their exchanges, even amongst like higher tier players, that they've forgotten the skills, some of the skills that they learned in Storm 4. But if they go back to Storm 4, you see them naturally will implement those things. But in Storm Connections, they don't. So for example, you see a lot of people like just constantly dash clashing, and you don't have to do that. And this is something like these are things that I have to remind myself of, right? We don't have to constantly dash clash. I don't have to constantly dash clash with the player, right? So if he comes up, right, I can follow up. I don't have to keep doing this, just constantly dash clashing with him. I don't have to do that. I could also stop, right? It's to be harder now because we're so close. But what I'm saying is that I could also dash cancel and then counter him, right? Like I don't have to keep playing this like game with him like that, right? I can follow up. Because if you don't follow up, then when we both clash, we're both in recovery now, right? So like nothing's happening. But if I follow up, now it's my turn. And so now he has to do something. He either has to counter me, he has to hold block, right? Or he has to switch out himself. But it makes it your turn. Now it's your turn to do something. Now you can follow up. But we don't have to keep doing this all day. Switch out. Switch out. Now it's your turn. Now this is a very basic, fundamental thing in Storm 4. You never have to tell a player to do that. Players will do that naturally. But in Storm Connections, it's like they've forgotten that. You can follow up. You can switch out and follow up. We don't have to keep dash clashing. The same concept goes for giving good answers. So what I mean by giving good answers, I mean like looking at what your player is doing and responding effectively. So if you know your toolkit and you know what your characters are capable of, and you know you have a higher priority jutsu, you don't have to just like, let me see here. Sub, is it? I think this is J2, right? Is this J2? Okay, yeah, it is. All right, so you don't have to just like, you see the jutsu coming and you just sit here and hold block, right? But you can clear the field out, right? Right? Well, of course, Astro Jutsu, it expands, it explodes. But like you can clear the field. You can punish the player. If you know you have a jutsu with higher priority, and if you see a jutsu coming and you have like Infernal Fireball, or you're in Barrymore Naruto and you have cannon the field, just clear the whole field out. You don't have to respect your opponent's plays if you know that you have a toolkit, or you know that your character can has an effective answer to what the opponent is doing. If you don't have to respect it, don't respect it. So fireball him, Inferno Fireball him. If you have Barrymore Naruto and they doing cannon the whole field, just clear the whole field out, because he can do that. He has one of the highest priority jutsus in the game. So if you know you can do it, do it. You don't have to sit there and hold block and take the pressure. Respond. Same goes for even if you do not have a jutsu with that kind of priority. Then don't just stand still, but dodge it. Move out the way. And of course, what players are going to say is that they're going to say you're running away. Well, let them say that. Let them say that, right? But you don't have to stand still all the time. You don't have to constantly just take pressure. You have options, things that you can do. Now we were reminded of that in Storm 4. We knew these things. We implemented these things, but when we got to Storm Connections, we forgot about those things and we stopped implementing those things because supports are so powerful. And we have in chakra is so accessible. But you have options. You don't have to stand still. You can move out the way. You can switch out of the tracking. You can dodge the pressure. You have jutsu with higher priority. You can respond with that, right? You don't have to dash class, but you can switch off the dash and follow up and make it your turn. You have so many options. Same goes for if you are always hitting the guard, the person's guard, right? If they're walking away and doing this, right? And you just keep doing that. You don't have to keep just dashing. You don't have to keep doing that. In Storm 4, you know what players would do? They would dash cancel and start mashing, right? Or they would dash cancel and then switch off and follow up, right? You can utilize those same skills, those same principles in Storm Connections. You don't have to keep doing this. Dash cancel and grab or mash and get them into pressure. Utilize your tools, okay? Or dash cancel and then follow up like that, right? Or if you hit the guard, bounce off the guard and go into something. Again, in Storm 4, you don't have to tell anybody that because this just will happen naturally. That's why you see people like Flake Gem who like mastered the neutral so well. Flake Gem plays the neutral extremely well. And you'll see Flake Gem, he'll like pop off the guard and go into, right? He'll do something like that, right? But he's always like following up that way. So you don't have to just leave yourself in recovery after bouncing off, but you can go into something. Same thing with air dashing, right? If your opponent's constantly waiting for you to dash into their guard and then punish your landing frames, right? Then bounce off if you have a air jutsu, right? Or if you see them constantly waiting for you to air dash into their guard, stop air dashing and ground dash. Right? At that point, just stick to ground dashing, dash canceling. If they like to hop away and you're ground dashing, and then like they're just waiting for your dash to stop, and then they come in and punish your recovery frames, then charge chakra dash. That way you won't be like lingering in the air. Okay? Or stop it early. And bait them out, right? I don't know if I can show that example or not because I'll have to try to play with two hands. But they're waiting for you to come in and then they try to dash in whatever, you can just block and now it's your turn. But it's just like you remember that you have options. Don't forget your skills that you developed and learned in Storm 4, those same skills that can be applied in certain situations in Storm Connections. Same concept goes with dash cut, right? So, where's this, right? Yeah. All right. So dash cut comes out, right? So you can make that out. Dash cut comes, you follow up, or you hit the dash cut. Okay, or you hit the dash cut. Well, Choji gets up, right? You hit the dash cut, do a jutsu switch up, and then a follow up. So like you have all these different options. You just have to be proactive. Before we talked about how like constantly bouncing into the guard or doing stuff like this. If they're holding tight onto their guard, then switch up your approach, right? Start coming in, doing that, right? Get their guard ready to break. Okay? Or coming up doing that, right? I mean, you have options. Utilize your toolkit. Utilize your options. There was something else that I can't remember. So I guess for now, there's another tip that I wanted to showcase too. Guard pressure. Well, not guard pressure, but the team ultimate has such good tracking and storm connections, and guard is so weak now. So taking a full team ultimate, depending on where your block is, can be kind of risky. So just for a tip of dodging this, a way to dodge it, you could do something like this. Let's see if I can do this. All right, you can do something like that. So you can hop twice and then come over. Okay. So that's one way of dodging it. Of course, you can always respond with the team ultimate on your own. So if you're caught mashing, right, and they sub and they do that, I messed up there, but they do a team ultimate or something, you can respond with the team ultimate. Depending on your ulti, you can respond with an ulti. You can also respond by like certain jutsus, like, right? You can do things like that. But this is just me trying to show that you have options depending on if you know your characters, know what they can do, remembering your things that you learn. You have options to respond differently to what your opponent is doing. Another thing I want to talk about is a reminder of, really a suggestion. If you pick, let's say you have a weaker team, right? Let's say you have a team like, let's say this team, but let's say you have like a weaker team, or your opponent has something crazy, something like, trying to think, something, I don't know, let's say I'm just gonna, like, I can't really think right now, but let's just say like they got, let's say this is pre-patch, right? They have Ashura, Tamari, and Karen, okay? I know that Tamari was nerfed, so I guess you could say Tamari, let's say Demas, Kakashi, and Karen, right? Now, pre-patch, you had something like Ashura, Tamari, and Hidan. That's a very like strong team. So let's say they had a team like this, and you're like you're just getting whooped. Don't immediately go off and then change. Don't immediately go off and then change to like a different team. But stick with the team that you have, and beat like what they're doing. So what I'm saying is like use the opportunity to further develop your skills, right? So if like find a way to adapt instead of before you go straight to trying to like counterpick meaning like, for example, if somebody has puppets, then like counter picks will be like just stuff to help you the zone in, or stuff to help you pin the puppet player down, like Shishui, Ashura, right? Hidan, stuff like that. Or in Storm 4, Shishui, Miski, Danzo was like decent counter picks to like Tayuya. But it's like, don't immediately go to counter picking in order to win. But first, think about, what's my opponent doing? What can I do differently? Right? How can I change my approach? How can I respond more effectively with what I have to overcome this obstacle, to overcome this challenge? Then, if you want to counterpick, by all means, go and counterpick. But first, use the opportunity to sharpen your skills, right? So if the opponent is constantly running away, And let's say your team isn't good at catching runners. So what? Use this opportunity to perfect your aggression, right? If your opponent is spamming a lot of jutsus, don't go pick a counterpick team right away. First, see what can you do with what you have to get around your opponent's spam. Your opponent constantly zoning you out, keeping you out. Sharpen your skills. Develop your skills even further. All right, you're playing with somebody that's really aggressive. Don't immediately go and start counter picking and picking all these supports that like are heavy stud traps. You know, I mean, I don't know, like Orochimaru or Hidan or I guess Tamari, or maybe you go get a speed pill and you pick PTS Naruto. You know, like don't immediately go to counter pick, but see how can I deal with their aggression? How can I like get them to run up or to overextend? How can I like force them into unfavorable positions while I put myself in a favorable position? Like, think about these things. Sharpen your skills, right? That's how I learned how to run. I learned how to run away. I learned how to keep my opponent out. I learned how to be aggressive. I'm not saying that I perfected these things, but I learned how to do them to some degree. Because when I had a team that maybe wasn't the best pick against somebody else's team or meta, I didn't switch off. But I stuck with the team that I had, and I began to think, what can I do? Right? And when you think about that, when you force yourself in a position to think about what can you do, you're going to force yourself to practice and learn other skills. You're going to have to learn how to dodge, how to evade, how to run away, how to preserve your resources. It's going to force you to practice how to perfect your aggression, how to change the tempo up, how to keep your opponent out, how to zone in, you know, how to change the flow, how to do something different, how to bait it's going to force you to do that. And just as you play, just like constantly think, you know, if your opponent, we go back to before about, I made a video called Creatures of Habit. Your opponent knows if you have a habit of like, I don't know, ninja dashing in, kunai, and then mashing or something, right? So recognize your own habits, and then you can use those habits against your opponent. If you know your opponent recognizes things that you do, then you can use that to bait out their counters or to bait out them to do certain things, right? So this time, pretend or show as if you're going to do the same thing again, right? They will read it as you're just doing, you're going to do what you do out of habit, and then bait them and punish them. So just keep thinking, keep seeing what can you do. This other tip I have, which I recently found out with Kankuro. I don't think this was possible pre-patch, but I could be wrong. I am not a puppet master, but I do love watching puppet gameplay and like learning what I can and trying to imitate it. I do know how to use puppet as supports, but not really as leads. I will leave a link in the comment section in the description of the Storm Community Resource document, where you'll find resources that can from actual puppet masters and the Puppet United Discord and Puppet United YouTube channel, things like that, where you can actually learn how to use puppets. But so one little tip for easy guard pressure with Kankuro. Kankuro can, trying to take off this Kankuro and Sasori's up combo. So Kankuro's neutral resets on its own, and South Raise up combo resets on its own. So what I mean by that is, if I do a full combo, right? You see how I have to recover first before I can do something, unless I cancel it, right? Unless I do that. But if I do nothing, I'm stuck in recovery, right? Well, Kankuro isn't stuck in recovery. Kankuro can just keep going. I'm just mashing circle right now. I haven't stopped mashing circle. I'm just mashing circle the whole time. See that? I stopped on purpose then, but I'm just mashing circle. That's it. That's just all neutral. I haven't done anything different. I'm just hitting circle. Okay. So that's just some easy guard pressure there. Just for public players to know that that's an option. Of course, you have like your instant guard breaks and everything else that pups can do. But again, you want to learn that stuff, go learn it from the masters, because that's not me. I hope too. I think they talk about it, but if they haven't already, if any public players are watching, somebody should do a tutorial or a guide talking about all the utility that spark dashes give puppets, because there's so much utility you have with spark dashing with puppets, like being able to block right away, so you're able to like dodge incoming jutsus, or being able to cancel it straight in the grab. I mean, it's so much stuff there. But again, I'm going to leave that to the puppet masters to go over, and you'll find a link to those resources in the community resource document. And I think that was basically it that I can think of, that I kind of just wanted to quickly go over. But just for a short recap, just remember the things that you learned in Storm 4. Remember the tools that you have. Utilize your critical thinking skills. Think about how can you give effective, good answers to what your opponent is doing. You know, sharpen your skills. Don't be so quick to, counter pick, but use the opportunity to learn, to challenge yourselves, to adapt. Learn all the different aspects that comes with fighting. Running, evading, it's all part of fighting. Being aggressive, changing the tempo. All these things are part of fighting. So just continue to learn and to grow. And that's pretty much all I have. All right, I will catch y'all later.